Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mimelech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mimelech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mimelech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome. I'm going to say it probably more than once. It's Mother's Day weekend, so the mothers deserve a special shout out and a happy Mother's Day this Shabbat. And I hope you're going to be gathering with your families to celebrate yourselves because you deserve it. It's our pleasure to welcome Cantor Tanaz here on the Bima with us. We don't always get to hear from her. For those of you who are online, you maybe don't see the crowds cheering, but they're cheering. They're happy to see her. I would like to invite, actually, your oldest daughter is on Tiferet at Milken, and she's in Israel now during these unfortunately troubling times. So I'd like to invite your two younger daughters along with you to light the candles, the Shabbat candles. We're on page 2 if you're here with us, and page 3 online.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat.
Amen. Dressed beautifully in white. Thank you, girls. We continue on page 12 of the Chuna Ranana. There are psalms to welcome Shabbat. This is the first of our Kabbalat Psalms. Come, let us sing joyously to God. Our scholars, our rabbis, our sages said when we welcome Shabbat, we need to stand with joy, with pleasure, with delight, and sing these songs of celebration.
Sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation, from mountain to sea, hear our song. L'chuneranena, yai, rai, 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 l'Adonai. Yai, yai,
know the word halacha means Jewish law, it means the way. And in Hebrew, the word we'd say lech, which means go, or in poetic version in the Bible, it often means come. So lechuna ranana means let us come to sing. We're going to continue with lecha dodi, which means come beloved, come the one who is beloved, that is Shabbat. Originally this lecha dodi was probably for a bride, but it became, in the course of tradition, reinterpreted and rewritten to really speak about the beloved relationship the Jewish people have with Shabbat. So when we get to the last verse of Lecha Dodi, it's on page 20 in your prayer books, page 5 if you're watching from home. Of course, we stand and with our bodies we welcome Shabbat. We bend and we bow. We act out that sense of arrival, of reaching out to welcome Shabbat.
עצרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה יאי די די לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת כלה לה 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 פני שבת נקבל לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת כלה לה 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 פני שבת נקבל.
We continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. If you're at home, it's on page 8 in your online Siddur. Ahavat Olam is on page 32. Literally, the words are worldly love, or a love as large as the world. And as we reflect on this weekend and the celebration of our mothers, it's kind of unfortunate that at the beginning, Judaism didn't fully embrace the maternal element of God, because when you talk about love, you think about, of course, a motherly love for a child, that nurturing, educating, embracing love. But yet, of course, in the modern era, what the entry of women into the rabbinate, into the cantorate, into Jewish life in such a meaningful way has done, is to allow us to embrace that feminine aspect, that feminine approach to God. And so when we think about the grandest love we can imagine, perhaps we remember the love of our mothers, the love of a mother for a child, and that becomes the framing of this beautiful prayer.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. The V'ahavta is on page 36 in your books and page 11 if you're watching from home.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
The Micha Mocha, of course, is a song that the Torah says our ancestors sang when they crossed the sea, and it perhaps invites us to look back. But what the Micha Mocha does when it appears in our service is reminds us to look forward, because the passage from Egypt to Sinai to Israel was all about looking forward into the future and anticipating a better future. The reading on page 39 captures that. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught. Before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Next page, page 40. Hashkivenu on page 42, page 13 at home, has as its last two lines, Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukkot shalom Alainu, spread a shelter of peace over us. It's a prayer, lest we think that we're the only ones who live in a world where tragically violence knocks at our doors, whether in the land of Israel or gun violence in this country. We know that it's always been the fate of humanity to long for the ability to go to sleep in peace, to wake up in peace, to wake up protected. It's captured in this prayer. Hopes and prayers don't change a world, perhaps, but hopes and prayers can inspire us to act in ways that might bring peace, not just for ourselves, but for humanity. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, ve'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ve'takneinu ve'tzah tova milfanecha, ve'hoshienu למען שמך. נהגן בעדנו, הסר מעלינו, אויב דבר וחרב ורב, ויגון והסר שטן מלפנינו ומאחרינו, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי שומרנו ומצילנו, מצילנו אתה, כי מלך חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
This Shamru is on page 44. The people of Israel will keep the Shabbat, it says, to do the Shabbat for generations, to keep the Shabbat for generations. The reading on page 45 captures that notion of what it is to hold on to the past, to pass it to the future. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happens once upon a time, happens all the time.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Say that sometimes when you hit those high notes, I wonder about the lights in the. It's gorgeous, though. It's beautiful. We continue on page 253 with the Misha Berach. Hold thoughts of your loved ones, of friends who might be ill in your heart as we sing this prayer of healing.
שברח אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. מי שברך אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
The Amida, the personal prayer, begins on page 46 in your prayer books and continues through to page 62. You can read the words on the page, or you can just appreciate the music that's playing in the background, think your own thoughts, and enjoy this time of peace in the sanctuary. We begin standing. When you're finished with your own prayers, you can be seated.
רצון אמרפי עליון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, ve'imeru.
Tenaz, I know that your prayers are always personal, but with Noah and Israel, your prayers for peace and quiet are that much more personal. And so we pray not just for peace for her, but peace for all those who are currently threatened by the missiles that unfortunately are flying once again. I'm going to do my best not to be raspy. Unfortunately, I have to share my cold, and I don't mean physically, but I mean share the fact that I have a cold with dozens of people throughout a week. It's what happens along with being a rabbi. You have to stand up in public, and when your voice is raspy, everyone knows. So I got the water, I got the cough drops. Let's see what happens. A few weeks ago, it was actually during Passover, Becky and I went to the Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley. If you haven't been there, it's really a beautiful hilltop location. It was made even that much more beautiful by the rains because the hillsides were just verdant green and flowering, and it was really a pretty sight. We went to see the exhibit called Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away. It's the title of the exhibit. It was incredible and it was powerful. And I would say that apart from Yad Vashem in Jerusalem and the U.S. Holocaust Museum, it's probably one of the most comprehensive retrospectives on that horrific scar in the Earth's surface that is the death camp we call Auschwitz. And it provides an important historical retrospective on the circumstances and the conditions that birthed and sustained the camp, and how it was possible to carry out the murder of 1.5 million Jews over the course of several years. It was curated by the Holocaust scholar, the eminent Holocaust scholar from across the street, Michael Barenbaum. And beyond the power of the exhibit, there are a number of additional aspects that added to its impact. First of all, it was in the Reagan Library, not exactly a Jewish landmark. Second, it was packed, and it wasn't a weekend, it was a Wednesday. So packed that it required timed entry. And finally, folks, it's Simi Valley, not exactly a Jewish promised land. And looking around, it was so clear that the vast majority of the people visiting were not Jewish. How did I know? You just know, right? You just know. Put all that together, the power of the exhibit, the location, the attendees, and it was really unforgettable. If you haven't been, I think it's still an open, go, definitely go. Having said all of that, after reading an article in The Atlantic by the author Dara Horn, my eyes were open to a slightly different take on Holocaust memorials, on museums, on interfaith Holocaust ceremonies in general. The article is based on Dara Horn's book called People Love Dead Jews. Now, that intentionally shocking title, and she meant it to be shocking, points to a certain reality about significant Jewish landmarks, Jewish sites around the world. That most of them are for Jewish communities that no longer exist. I'm talking about memorials and museums, for Jewish communities that no longer exist. Whether they're Holocaust retrospectives or Holocaust memorials, or even some tourist sites. And Horn writes in her book about a city called Harbin in China, which, though now it's currently known for spectacular ice and light sculptures that it puts on, was in the first quarter of the 20th century a city of 100,000 Russians. And of those 100,000 Russians, 40,000 of them were Jews. They were displaced from Russia, and they created in this northern region of China a Russian city in the midst of China. So her point is that there's a strange attraction for sites of Jewish interest, so much that they become tourist meccas, drawing crowds, but they're devoid, even though they're dedicated to Jews, they're devoid of real live Jews. And they're mostly about dead Jews. They're reminiscent of tragedies or of abandonment, whether willful or forced. So Holocaust museums, unfortunately, and memorials too, sort of reflect that dead Jew appeal. And they often make an argument that at first appears really compelling, just like the Auschwitz exhibit in the Reagan Museum. But it's not without drawbacks. So consider that Auschwitz exhibit as an example. You walk through the halls, and Jews are presented as regular folks, just like everybody else. They had businesses. There are photos of Jewish couples posing on their wedding days. They look like anybody posing on a wedding day. They're Jewish businesses, no different from other businesses. And it makes the important point that the people killed at Auschwitz were like everybody else. They were Poles, they were Germans, they were Czechs, and so on. People who just happened to be Jewish. But that attempt to portray Jews as a different flavor of humanity, though of course true, doesn't fully describe what Jewishness actually is, who we are, and perhaps even why anti-Semitism persists. And in fact, and I'm convinced by Horn's argument, or I wouldn't be sharing it with you, it actually undermines the status of Jews in our world today. Let me explain. Because here's the thing. Jews are not like everybody else. I mean, yes, we are, but we're not. Because Jewish identity is truly unique. And many aspects of Judaism's exceptionality explain both the essential reason for Jewish survival over thousands of years and the reason that anti-Semites seize on aspects of that identity to go after us for all those thousands of years as well. The catalyst, if you will. So consider this. Judaism is not merely a religion. Now, we also speak a common language. All Catholics don't speak a common language. All Protestants don't speak a common language. But Jews have, as their foundational language, Hebrew. We have a homeland. Catholics don't have a homeland. Protestants don't have a homeland. And then when we move and live in different regions, we choose to live apart, wherever we found ourselves dwelling, not because we're antisocial, but because the rituals of religious identity often require Jews to live separately, to eat separately, different restaurants, different places to shop, different places to pray, obviously. Judaism isn't merely a nationality, though we are associated with a land and a nation. And we have a national homeland because we're a religion. And at our core, are rituals and worship that connect us to Jews wherever they live, whether in Israel or outside of Israel, and whatever language they speak, whether Hebrew is their language, Yiddish or German or Persian or whatever. Judaism isn't merely a culture either. Though we share common practices and a language, those are cultural markers, we also, and we experience a year with cultural observances, if you will, those observances are also attached to a religious meaning, our identity as a religious people. And yet they can be, and they're often observed, in a quasi-secular manner. Where are they often most secular? Here's where it really breaks your brain. In the Jewish national homeland is where they're often most secular. Right? Figure that one out. Judaism isn't genetic, i.e., one can become a naturalized citizen of the Jewish people through conversion. And yet, in marriage creates unique Jewish genotypes. There are traceable through the generations. And there are uniquely Jewish diseases, Ashkenazi, Persian diseases. Choosing to become a Jew is more like becoming a citizen in some kind of a strange global identity, where one can keep one's national affiliation. You can stay French, Italian, American, but yet you add this other layer of identity, of citizenship, if you will, to your Americanism, which is also Jewish. And the convert gets this passport conversion that brings them into this whole spectrum of Jewish identity, culture, nationality, religion, all those things. So we really are unique, really unique. I can't think of another identity in existence today with such widespread influence that is similar. So we often call ourselves a people, but do we ever stop to think about what it means to call the Jews a people? So here's where that people love dead Jews issue comes in. Because, and this is important, there's not one Holocaust museum that captures that complexity. You could walk through a museum, you'd see pictures of Jews living, Jews dead, but does it really say how unique Jews are over the course of our history? It's because we transcend definitions of religion, of nationality, of culture, and genetics that somehow or another the anti-Semites have seized on that strange identity. And that culture, that identity encompasses all and yet redefines each of those parameters. So the anti-Semite finds fertile ground in that complexity. There's not one Holocaust museum that says to the would-be anti-Semite, or for that matter, the the non-Jewish Philo-Semite, Jews are like everybody else, and Jews are different from everybody else. Both of those things. And because of the Jewish unique path through history, because of the unique Jewish contribution to the world, and because we are, of course, above all, human like everybody else, like every other person on this planet, possessing both strengths of our humanity and, I have to admit, and you all know this, the weaknesses of our humanity, we've earned a place in this world, even as we've contributed immensely to it. And there's no museum that really captures both of those things. Maybe the Beit HaTfutzot in Israel, which is a museum to living Jews. Doesn't capture our commonalities with all humans, and it doesn't capture the differences that we embrace. And explains why both those aspects are worthy of respect, and Jews are worthy of respect and admiration and preservation and even celebration. So what needs to be said at every single Holocaust memorial, every single Holocaust museum, every single ceremony that recognizes the deaths from the Shoah, that were it not for this strange, unique, determined, inspired, and yes, imperfect people of the book, the world, as we've come to know it, with all the good and all that isn't so good, well, it wouldn't exist. What's missing from these worldwide exhibits of Jewish tragedy is quite simply gratitude. Gratitude, spoken through the voices of the people in these museums. Gratitude to this unusual minority, less than 0.1% of the world's population. This minority who have walked their unique path for 3,000 years and walked in such a way that the world is better because we've been a part of it. Amen. My voice held out. Thank you. A prayer for our nation on page 258, and for Israel. If you're at home, it's on page 21 and 22. First, the United States. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit.
Avinu שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו.
Avinu Shabbat, we ask you to bless the state of Israel, whose founding continues to inspire us with its promise of freedom, justice, equality, and understanding. Strengthen the hands of those who defend Israel's borders, its security, and its democracy. Stir in its leaders devotion to the principles of liberty, of justice, of equality, and of compassion. Open the minds and the hearts of its inhabitants to one another. May they turn to one another in understanding, in dignity, and in love. Then shall its light truly shine among the nations, and its boughs, like the olive branch, spread far in splendor, bringing life to all who sit under the tree, sit under their shade, as we say, Amen. We are blessed today to have our ambassadors here, all of those who extend greetings on Shabbat and holidays. So I'd like to invite all of you to come forward. If you had a special nosh before, so we're going to recognize your commitment and your dedication. Of course, Andy Berman is the chair of our committee membership. We invite you for the Kaddish. There aren't enough glasses. I don't recommend you share, but we'll symbolic. Yeah, come on up. I want to be able to see you all. Absolutely. Page 5 in the prayer books, page 23 at home.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, leshabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Chaim.
It's Andy and Felice Williams, Andy Berman and Felice Williams, who are chairs of our committee. So thank you both for doing what you do and for being the face of welcoming Stephen Moore's Temple. Whoever would like to can have a sip of this delicious Welch's grape juice, and then you guys can all go ahead back to your seats. Thank you. We continue with the Alainu. It's on page 282. Please rise.
Alainu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula leyoser breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We sit you down to ask you then to stand up in unique ways as a way of recognizing that we gather to be inspired, we gather to be soothed by the music, we gather to celebrate Shabbat, we gather to celebrate community, and we know that part of being community, part of being a part of the Jewish people is that we mark both the celebrations in our lives and the times of mourning through our tradition. And so right before the Kaddish, we ask those of you who are here recognizing loss in your family to rise. We start first with those who've lost a loved one in the past 30 days. Would you please rise? And if you're in the first year of mourning, would you please rise? First year. And now, if you're observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise. We know that standing here and remembering the life of the one that you love is a way of keeping not just their memory alive, but the sense of their presence powerful in your life. And now we stand beside you, we who are here to comfort you and join you as you say the Kaddish, remembering your loved ones. Page 294. If you're at home, it's on page 25. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. B'alma divarach u'tei v'yamlich machutei. V'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'gala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei al-maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei. V'tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei l'kudashah b'richu. Le'la min kol birachata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamat. Damiran bi'ama v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chaim Alainu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu yaseh shalom. Alainu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel and all the world, to which we say, Amen. And we close with songs of peace, but before that, first of all, again, we can never say it too much, recognizing our mothers in gratitude for not just the gift of life, but for all the things that have made our lives worth living, the loves, the kisses, the Band-Aids on a skinned knee, the nagging, it helps too, the guilt, all those good things that make mothers mothers, and we appreciate it so deeply, because we know it all comes from a place of love, but also to recognize those folks who made today possible. Tali and Jeff, thanks for being you and your incredible music. Thanks to our tech crew who is able to, remember when we first started how difficult it was for us to stream, and now it's effortless and it's amazing. Our tech crew makes it happen and we're so grateful to them. And of course all those at WISE, the staff that makes this moment possible by doing what they do all week long. We're grateful. So thank you to all of you, and of course to all of you who are here. Shabbat Shalom. We would be nothing if it weren't for our community that joins with us on Shabbat to celebrate. Oseh Shalom, the last three lines on page 294 in Hebrew, our prayer for peace.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם. יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם.
Shabbat Shalom and happy Mother's Day.
Shabbat Shalom.